Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. We're here in our new home and going to show it off more today.
Absolutely. We're just loving our fresh new set and hope you are too.
That's right. Well, we've got a great show for you today. It's a rainy day, or an overcast day. Rain may come and go. We've had a lot of rain. The soil is workable. It is a great time to plant. So we've got some great ideas for you today. Actually, today we're going to help you get ready for spring, though.
Absolutely. The beauty of bulbs. They're irresistible.
Right.
And you can get bloom. I put in my notes from February through May, but that's restricting the season.
Right.
Actually, we have bulbs that you can plant now that will come into bloom very soon. And so you get a lot of flower power out of these bulbs if you plant them according to their season of bloom. And if we bring up the first picture, I'm thinking, what are some of the reasons we enjoy these bulbs so much? And that's because in the winter time, we're often snowbound,
right?
Or somewhat snowbound, and I do love the snow. I love to go out into it when it's fresh.
I was going to say, I like it when it's fresh and beautiful. As soon as it gets a little dark, I want it gone.
Yes. But when the snow goes away, I am ready for the next little picture. My love affair with bulbs. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, and how I have used them for many, many years.
Absolutely, and in many different ways.
And that's very true, yes. I've planted many bulbs, and I do it with a shovel most of the time.
Really?
I know a lot of people use bulb planters, but I've never done that. I put it aside and I still use my shovel.
There you go. At least you have it handy in case you need it, right?
Right.
Okay, well, before we get started, and we will be taking your phone calls later in the show, so stay tuned for that. But want to get you started with what's happening at Merrifield Garden Center today, because we've got a big weekend as always, with our seminars as they continue throughout the month of October. Today at our Merrifield location, Renetta Holt is going to be talking about walks, walls, and patios. So if you're interested in adding a little something to your landscape, this is the perfect seminar for you. That's at the Merrifield Community Hall, which is right next door to our Merrifield location. And that's at 10 a.m. Now, at our Fair Oaks location today, we're not having seminars because there's a special event going on. The Potomac Rose Society is having their 75th 75th annual Rose Show, and that is today and tomorrow at our Fair Oaks location. As you can see, it's from 1 to 6 today and from 12 to 4 tomorrow. Now, if this is a great opportunity to see beautiful roses, to ask questions of rosarians, and if you have a rose that you'd like to enter, and they have many categories, including photography, you still have till 9:30 this morning to get over to the Fair Oaks location to get your entry in. So, as far as I know, it doesn't cost anything to join. There's no fee for the show. It's a great opportunity, so take advantage of that. That's at our Fair Oaks location. And then at our Gainesville location today, Michael Fay is going to be talking about fall magic with trees and shrubs. Now, we kind of got him started last week on the show here with some beautiful color with trees and shrubs, but he's going to have more time today to really go into it and answer your questions, and it's just a great opportunity. So that's at 10 a.m. at the Gainesville location. And then next week, we have, 3 more great seminars. Playing with Fire. That's an interesting sounding one, isn't it? And 4-season gardening, which is always important. And gardening in deer country. All very timely topics.
Yes.
You could use that, gardening in deer country, couldn't you?
That's all right. I've got some experience under my belt.
Yes, you do.
I deal with these deer, more or less.
Wanted to let you know, too, that as last week, members of the Washington Daffodil Society, which is perfect for our bulb show today, are going to be at all 3 locations today from around 10 to 3 to answer your questions about bulbs. So we're so appreciative to them for that. And let's see, what else? Oh, I know David had mentioned last week the National Capital Orchid Society is having their show this weekend. The venue got changed, so just check their website, www.ncos.us. So, lots going on. Lots
Good
going
enough.
on.
And we'll begin our conversation about the beauty of bulbs.
Okay.
And they are beautiful. And which beauty am I talking about?
That's hard to say. That is hard to say. Multiple beauties there.
I couldn't resist putting this picture in because bulbs are beautiful. They are mobile. And when you plant them in pots, you can put them where you want them. And often a lot of them coincide with Easter. And all of the grandchildren are there and all their finery. And it's so nice to have so many bulbs. And here you're seeing hyacinths, which are fragrant, and different colors of tulips that are so color coordinated.
Right.
And then the beauty of course, my granddaughter Gretchen. And she's very coordinated with
That's
her
right.
Easter outfit. So
She knew what colors to put on. Put together.
absolutely. It's wonderful that they all have been in the garden so much, and I do encourage all of you out there to include your young people in gardening because they are our gardeners of tomorrow. And if they don't learn some of the basics now, they may not be comfortable doing this, and they'll miss a great deal because this is working with the environment, it's working with nature. And so as we progress in the program, I thought that the next picture really says exactly what we are going to do today, and that is designing with pots. Okay?
That's great.
So that kind of wraps it up until we
Okay.
go into
Now, when we come
Our
back,
pictures.
Peggy is going over to our virtual garden because you've got a lot of great examples to show us.
over the years, the things that I've accumulated, the different containers that I've done, and I do try to change them up each
Right.
year, a little bit different, okay?
Okay.
So I want to share that.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back in the garden. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Merrifield Garden Center's Gardening Advisor. And today we're talking about designing in pots. We're thinking about fall and how beautiful it is right now. The summer containers are pretty much finished, and besides which, we want a new look. And then it would be nice to have some of those containers go through winter, and if you're going to have them go through winter, why not put bulbs in them? Because I have had great luck doing this. Yes, every now and then you may have an issue. I had someone on our Facebook mention something about some of their bulbs rotting. Bulbs do not like to be sopping wet for long periods of time, either in the ground or in containers. And so be sure that your soil in your containers, your potting soil, drains well, okay? So I want to just show you some of the things that I've done in containers through the years, and hopefully you'll be inspired to try some of this yourself. Plus, I'm going to mention planting right now pansies and violas. These happen to be violas. I love a mix, and I also love them just a pot of those alone. Heuchera, coral bells, or the crosses, heucherella, tiarella, all go through the winter beautifully, and they're so lovely. So right now, and you're going to have a how-to with this, okay? The bulbs were planted beneath. The containers are fairly good size, so there's not a problem worrying about the freezing, even in the real cold. And then in the spring, they come up through these wonderful plants. So here I've coordinated the colors of the containers and everything, even with some of the blue of the hyacinths. The next one, please. We'll bring on, there we go. Here's a closer view. As you've seen through the years, because thank goodness these things have hung in there, you know, they're hardier than they look, and that's the globes that I'm talking about, because I love blue. And so I've used the blue purple and have the blue purple hyacinths. One of the beauties of planting these hyacinths in containers is they are very fragrant. And you can move them where you'll enjoy that fragrance. Just love it. And the color pickup with this particular pansy, I think that one's called Morpho, and I just love it because it's got enough yellow in it to really make it pop, and a little color pickup with the viola that's in here. But I love the groupings also, and the repetition of the 2 containers of hyacinths. And to the next one, please. Here is a different year, a different time. This may have been the one that Gretchen was sitting among earlier at Easter time. Coordination again. While yellow makes areas pop, just a touch of it, white does also where it works. And you can see that I've got some repetition even in that. These containers were done separately, and I'll show you later in the show how I did these so that I could move them completely into place to be complementary to the other containers that were already there. And we'll go to the next one. Large containers out beneath a holly tree, a native holly tree that's been limbed up. And it needed some color under there. I didn't want to plant right on top of the root system in this particular area. And so I just loaded it up with white tulips. And oh, how much I enjoyed that. Late flowering so that you can see some of the late azaleas are in bloom right now. And of course, I love the accessories, you know. Next one, please. Now, this one I really, really want to tell you all about, because this is one that I did last fall, and this is what I had in the spring. Violas you're looking at, but a lot of bulbs, some of which were planted beneath the violas and the winter things, some of which were containers that were set into place. But kale, the kale that we have to sell now, the red borer, the winter borer, all the kale, is very winter hardy, and you leave it in place and it's gorgeous all through the winter. Then in the spring it sends up these wonderful, wonderful flowers, and look at the picture. So it's so worth it for all that time. I want to roll through some of these pictures pretty quickly now, okay? Here's a close-up. The value of the violas, the value of the pansies, and here is grape hyacinth. Here's the traditional purple, and here's another variety. There's different varieties of these bulbs. We'll roll with these, please. Another one. Look how the white is picked up by the white in the viola. Okay. And sometimes it all really comes together. And this was a riot on last spring. The dogwood was in bloom. The azaleas behind it was in bloom. The Otto Lukens laurel was in bloom. And all the containers that I moved into this section, it was a riot of color, and it was Easter, and it was perfect. Let's go, please, with some more. Here, color coordination. This beautiful color of this particular hyacinth. Now, you can also, next spring, when some of the flowers that are not hardy but love the cool, like this one, but look at the coordination of color here. You can add those to it in the early spring and have even more beautiful flowers. Next one, please. Here are some things you can plant in your containers right now. Beacon silver lamium. Go to the perennial section. Heuchera, heucherella, tiarella. Go to the perennial section. Different colors here and here. These will go through the winter. Your bulbs will come up through it, okay? And the next one, please. This is another grouping. Again, things that are in the ground, complementing all of those flowers that you've set into place. But color coordination. It has gotten warm enough now that the spike is already in place, and it will go through the summer. So it's a continuity of all these things. Next one, please. No? That's the last one? All right. We'll be back in a moment and we'll talk to you a lot more about how to do designing with pots.
All right, and there's a good tease, because in our next segment, we've got some great ideas for you with pumpkins over at our front door, so stay tuned for that. Before we get to that, though, we had the opportunity last week to go out to our Fair Oaks location and do a little filming. So we asked Peggy to do kind of a how-to on how to plant these bulbs. It's hard to do that here, but you had
It's a
great
little messy.
Yes. So we had a great opportunity there. So
Find
let's
the
take a
right
look at
place.
the video.
It's time to do those fall containers. And while you're thinking about it, think not just fall, but through the winter and into the spring. Here's how I like to do my containers. Choose one that's large enough to hold enough soil to get through the winter. I love clay, and if it's well fired, it usually goes through the winter. Be sure that it has good drainage. Check to be sure there are holes in the containers you're using. I place a piece of landscape fabric over that hole, and then I like to use pea gravel to cover approximately ½ an inch in the bottom of the pot. This really helps to keep the little critters out, and it also keeps the soil in. And if you're gardening on a deck or a patio, you want the soil to stay inside. After you've done that, I like to put a good potting soil up to about 2/3 of the depth of this pot. I like to use our Merrifield potting soil, but ProMix and several others are also good potting soils. And then when I have about 2/3, I add Soil Moist. This is the same thing really that's in baby diapers. It absorbs the moisture and then releases it. It does not replace watering, but it certainly helps. And then I sort of have my own brew, which is not absolutely necessary, but I like the rock phosphate, and so I add some of that. I like the green sand, and I add, according to the directions, please, a little bit of gypsum, which is calcium, and then I throw in just a little bit of Plantone. These are all organics. And since you want this to go through the winter and into spring, organics are a very good way to go. I want to mix that thoroughly because you don't want that soil moist in the top of that soil. And now we're ready to plant. What are your choices? Pansies go through the winter beautifully, but I want something else a little different. I want something that's going to pop next spring. And so I'm going to put my tulips in first. I'm really only going to use 5 or 6 of these because I want them to come up through these pansies. And so I'm going to be sure that they are beneath the root systems. I think I'll put a grouping of 3 on this side and perhaps a grouping of 2 on another area, and then maybe 1 all by itself over here at the edge. Ready for the plants. Love the pansies and the violas. Take them out of their pot. Be sure, this one has 3 plants in it, so I'm going to open it up and place that inside of here. Put another one over in this area. Bounced right into place, didn't it? And then I'm going for the violas. Going to choose that viola, and look, the roots are, you can see they're very obvious. You want to open those roots up. Perhaps remove just a little from the bottom. Don't want to destroy that root ball, just open it up and put that into place. I like to use a little bit of yellow in a lot of the containers, not in all of them perhaps, but it really makes things pop. Now, what are my choices from here? I can add a small chrysanthemum because when it's all finished blooming, I'll take it out, and that will give more space for the pansies and the violas. But what else would be interesting in here? The little Ophiopogon would pick up a color if you used, and I'm going to reach back, this wonderful kale. Kale goes all through the winter and then blooms in the spring and will bloom along with the tulips. And so you could also use that in the container. What else? Wonderful heucheras, the coral bells or the heucherellas. Isn't that lovely? Let's take this out and say that we're using that. Okay, around these pansies and violas, you can also add a carex, a small grass in this area. You've got things that are very obvious and very attractive in the wintertime. You've got the pansies going through, and then come spring, you still have these things. The pansies will have really established themselves, and you'll have the bulbs coming up through the center. And then the only thing that you really need after that are beautiful accessories. Wonderful, wonderful way to enjoy color and interest in all seasons.
There you go, how it's done. So thank you so much for doing that. Also, if you're on our Facebook page, you'll probably notice, because Peggy and my brother Kevin Warhurst did a how-to video. We're starting to do some how-to videos on our website, so be sure to access those. But they did a how-to video
on the bulbs,
and how to put them together. So
and we enjoyed it. We hadn't done that before, and it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, so it is there available for anybody who goes on Facebook.
That's right.
It's a briefer version.
Right. But our website, MerryfieldGardenCenter.com, is a wealth of information, so you can find all of those on there, as well as Facebook.
And I do have a few more pictures to share, so I'd like to roll through those pretty quickly, because in our fourth segment, we want to share some decorating that's fun too, okay? So let's roll through. Again, this hopefully are inspirational pictures for you to try things. In this particular year, I used all of one color of bulbs. And again, those bulbs were geared to try to aim for the dogwood and the azaleas in bloom. There are so many different varieties and so many different seasons. This is a double. Don't be afraid of some of these doubles in the tulips. Magnificent. And in the next picture, I have to tell you, for years I would not plant the fringed tulips. I just couldn't quite get my hands around a fringed tulip. I was so pleasantly surprised. So don't be afraid to try them. And don't concentrate just on tulips, because in the next picture is the beauty of using daffodils. Narcissus daffodils. Daffodils are narcissus, by the way. Now, I mentioned to you, and the next picture actually is pretty graphic description of how I winter over the containers that are separate. These are the containers that just have bulbs in them. And they're in smaller pots so that I can lift them and move them around easily. I put down landscape fabric, and then I put my pots into it, and I pot them up just like the others, except it's just with bulbs. I fold that landscape fabric over it. I pin it down with the sod pins that look like big old hairpins, and we do sell them, and cover them over. Now you have to uncover them in February, which is fine, you know, but this serves two purposes. It sort of protects them somewhat from the cold because they're in smaller containers. It keeps the varmints out, okay? And I don't have to worry about the deer until I uncover it, and then I can spray it with Bob-X, okay? So that's how I do those. Now, I do want to encourage you, because we have had this wonderful rain, and I've so been praying for it because we've been so very dry. And now it's going to be so easy to work that soil to get those plants in, and fall is a good time to do your planting. And so this is my garden beside the road in past years, okay? And I put those mums into the ground to complement the perennials that are already there, and love the sedums. You can put them in now. Love that variegated iris that's in the background. It's a perfect perfect time. Now I am so inspired to go out and do that fall planting. Put those pansies in the ground, tuck in those bulbs.
Right.
I'm so happy to have the
It's
rain.
even, it's a perfect time to plant in the fall, but it's even a better time to plant now that we've had
It's
this
just
great wind.
easy to work the soil.
It is,
in,
it is.
You know?
Okay, well,
Absolutely.
we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got some decorating ideas for you, so stay tuned. Well, fall is not only a perfect time to plant, but it's a great time to change your decorations for the season. So Peggy is over at our front door with some great ideas for you. Peg?
Knock, knock, knocking on the door. How does your door look? Does it say hello to who comes and goes? Does it say hello to you? I truly do enjoy doing decorations for the door and changing them seasonally. I thought today would be great fun, if I don't push the shrub over. I thought it would be great fun to do something a little different. And we had a lot of these wonderful baskets that hang. And the gourds are superb this year. There's so many different colors and so many different types. Yes, I love the orange traditional pumpkins, but now we've got so many others to work with, and it's great fun. And they go through Thanksgiving. We think a pumpkin, a Halloween, but they're to decorate with for the fall season. It's not just Halloween. Wonderful, simply placed in this basket. And then corn wired to the corner, a pretty bow put in place, a couple of feathers, and voila, you have a very interesting and a very different arrangement, decoration for your door. And you could, if you didn't want to do gourds, you could put a piece of foam inside of there, a little moss to cover it, and fill it with artificial flowers too, you know. But isn't that fun? It's so colorful. I like it. And then the stacking of the pumpkins is such a traditional thing to do, and I hope that you'll be able to get this one with the camera. Can you go down and see this pumpkin stack? We'll certainly give it a try anyway. They're called Cinderella pumpkins, and they're pretty flat, and so you can stack them without having to pierce the pumpkin itself. Maybe that isn't, maybe, oh good, I'm so glad that we can get down with the camera. Well, we may miss the bottom one, but I love the colors. They come in different oranges and oh, I can't even describe all the colors. But I've stacked 3 here, and then I twirled a little grapevine around it. That's kind of fun too. And they are not pierced. If you stack the orange ones, you almost need to put a rebar down the center to hold them together. And then I put a few little ornamental grasses next to that to go through the season too and complement it. You can see the edges of a pot of red boar kale and one of the green kales. And so now you've decorated your porch, your entryway, and said hello, and I'm going to walk slowly over towards Debbie in that direction so that I can show you some of the other things that you can do with all of these wonderful pumpkins. Yeah, now you're getting an overview of what that looks like and coming into this pumpkin area here. And you know, I'm going to step down so that we can get this arrangement. If we can go back down just a little bit. You can do so much with grapevines, and this is a little basket that has, little grapevines that have been woven into a basket. And so I've simply laid some of those attractive little pumpkins inside of there. And it's fantastic what you can discover when you walk through our shop inside. Everybody in there has done such a fantastic job working on even Christmas, but it's amazing what you can find that you can use. It's so interesting. Now I may sort of tear this up a little bit, but I want to show you what I did. They have a lot of little hanging glass bottles, and if you put water in here, you can tuck any cut flour down into there and then arrange it in any basket or mix it with things that don't need water. I've tucked a little moss inside, wired some corn to the side of this, and you've got a very pleasing table arrangement. Now, if we can take the camera up through this area, I'm going to step up and talk to you about another thing that's really such fun. This is a wonderful stack, which I did pierce a couple of and put just a small wire that would hold that in place, okay? And I'm going right through the center. I don't think it's going to cause these pumpkins to rot for a long time. I did take just plain clay pots, and just for fun, I used an acrylic paint to rub those pots into a shade of green that really goes along with all the mosses and the fun things. And you don't have to pierce all of these. Even just a little pot turned sideways with a pumpkin sitting into there. And so you can create this, and you can stretch this out on a dining table and include candles and a lot of fun things. But I've loved working with the mosses. I'm going to actually pull a little bit of this aside and show you how fun that is, okay? Are we not?
I think we've got two pictures you wanted to show before
Yes, let's bring up those pictures, because this is what I did beside the road last year, okay? In my own garden, to share and enjoy the beauty of fall. This is one of those pumpkin stacks, okay? And I did this in an urn. They're beautiful in urns. They're beautiful sitting in containers. I mixed in some pyracantha with it, and in the next picture, I actually wired together a if we go into the next picture, I think there's one more.
That's it.
I wired together, because there's a fence there, a big bunch of ornamental grasses. Oh, the value of ornamental grasses. And I had planted the kale in the ground and the pansies in the ground. So when I'm ready for Christmas, ready to take these decorations down,
right,
then I can put my roping along that little fence and my bow in the corner where you see the grasses, and hey, voila, I got Christmas there.
So you decorate your front door, you decorate your front porch, you decorate your whole landscape.
Absolutely enjoy doing it too.
Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take your phone calls. So if you have any questions, give us a call, 703-387-1046, and we will talk to you in just a couple of minutes. Talk about neat pumpkins, what you can do with pumpkins. Tina sent this over. What a great idea. Just something to decorate
She
them
was
up.
just working away with these, and I said, oh, that's so lovely.
I know. Well, I love that it's not just pumpkins anymore. There are so many different styles and varieties, you know, and gourds as well. But
And you can do
pumpkins themselves are
faces,
really
but
cool.
why?
I know, exactly.
Why?
This
It's
is so
so
much
pretty
fun.
without
I
a
know,
face.
I know.
Unless it's a happy face.
Well, we're taking your phone calls during this segment, 703-387-1046. And Peg, our first caller is our friend Richard from Colesville. Hi, Richard.
Good
How
morning,
are you?
Richard.
Good morning, Debbie and Peggy. My question this morning, I grow my cantaloupes on a fence, an 8-foot-high fence. And they've been doing fine, except some of them rot before the stem dries off. They look good on the outside, and all of a sudden they just simply collapse.
Wow.
No, that's not good.
If you're growing them on an 8-foot fence, you must be saddling them with something to that fence to hold the weight of them, right?
Oh yes, I use these net bags
Right.
to tie them up, and it works beautifully.
Oh, that's fantastic. Richard, it's going to be a little guesswork on my part as far as what is actually causing the rotting. Usually I know, harking back to my farming days, okay, growing up, I know that watermelons and cantaloupe always taste better when it dries out some toward the end, and otherwise if there happens to be a lot of rain, they rot. Now, I certainly haven't had a lot of rain, and I don't know if you have or did have when you
No, we
had
didn't.
that rotting. Well, then we can dismiss that, okay? But I know that can cause rotting. So I think you would have to look to some sort of fungal problem. And the only way that you could do that is to possibly take one to the information area, diagnose it, and see what's going on, Richard.
Okay. Well, thank you very much,
Didn't give you a
Peggy.
terribly satisfactory answer, I'm afraid.
Well, that's
Thank
okay.
you for calling, Richard, and thank you for watching.
Have a great weekend. Okay, let's see. Our next caller is Gretchen, who's calling from Forestville. Hi, Gretchen.
Good morning. How are
morning.
you?
Good morning. We're great. How about you?
I'm doing just fine.
Good.
Two quick questions. One, what's the difference between a viola and a pansy?
Size primarily, okay? They're in the same family, and the violas are small and usually produce in abundance. From the pictures that you saw, I'm sure you could see that they were just a mass of color. And they will grow and cascade down over the pot. And so violas are fantastic. I just don't want to be without them. I also like the size of the pansies too. So I like to use some of those, and a blend of them are great. But primarily it's the size of the flower, Gretchen.
Okay. Well, the other quick question I have regarding a hibiscus.
Yes.
I have 5 of the old hibiscus plants. You know, they drop seed and they come up all over the
Yes,
place.
they do.
I want to cut those back drastically. Now, can I do that now, or should I wait till February to do that?
The hardy hibiscus, I'm
Yes,
assuming that
yes.
you're talking about, you
Yes.
can cut them back right now.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
You can cut it back and take it away. I've already done that with
Oh.
some of mine because I had some little pots that I'm using in that area, and they were shading it, and I wanted to get rid of it. So the thing with hardy hibiscus is always leave just enough of the stem that you can remember where they are.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're late sleepers. They don't pop out in the spring until after a lot of other things, and you don't want to dig into them.
Right.
Cut them back, honey. No
Great.
problem.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Okay, next is Ann from Ashburn. Hi, Ann.
Good
Hi.
morning, Ann.
Hi, how you doing?
Great. And you?
Great, thank you. I have 2 questions. One question is about 30 green tomatoes I still have on vines. Will they ripen, or should I pick them and make fried green tomatoes?
You know what? I think I'd do some sharing there. I happen to love fried green tomatoes, and I just, for one reason or another, haven't done that this year. So I feel like I've missed something, you know. So I'd have to say use some of them for fried green tomatoes, but the larger ones leave on the vines until frost is predicted, and then harvest them and bring them inside, and they will ripen, and they'll be mighty tasty, you know. Depending upon the weather, you know, keep those plants going.
So they'll be okay in like 40-degree weather?
Absolutely. It's frost that will take them out, okay?
Great. The second question was Schefflera. I have one in a very large pot that's about 15 years old, and I want to replant it because the pot is way too heavy for me to lift.
Right.
I can't get it out of the pot. What do I need to do? Break
Get
it?
some help.
I'm sure the roots are all tangled in there.
Well, they are growing round and round, I'm sure. And if you turn it over on its side, and I don't know if you can run a knife around the edge, and if it's that big, you'll have to have some help. Someone can tug on the pot while you tug on the plant, okay?
I see. So just
it's a
get
tug
like a
of
knife
war.
down the edges, inside of the
Yeah,
edges?
try that, you know. Sometimes those roots sort of adhere to the sides of the pot.
They
you
do.
know?
They're not coming out because I've already tugged.
Oh, well, get somebody to help you tug. And go, as I said, go around the edges with a knife. Also, check to see whether or not roots are coming out the whole of the container in the bottom, and if they are, cut those away.
Yes. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to Sharon from D.C. So Sharon, hang on just a minute. We'll be right back. such a fun time of year.
It
isn't
is.
it? Love the pumpkins.
Absolutely.
Love the mums. Love the pansies. Love the color.
Yeah. And we've put together at all 3 locations, really. Of course, Debbie, well, you go to Maryfield more than I do.
Yeah.
But there's some fun exhibits out there of how to use all this
You're
stuff, and it's
absolutely
great,
right.
you know.
Each store has different ideas.
They're very
which is
different.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
very talented people. Woo.
Okay, let's get back to our caller. Sharon is calling from Washington, D.C. Hey, Sharon, how are you?
Hi, good morning. I really love the show.
Thank you. And thanks for being patient with us
Don't
and
you
waiting.
like our new set?
Oh, yes, it's very
I'm
lovely.
so excited
I
about
like
the
front
new
porch.
set.
What can we do for you today?
I have 2 crepe myrtles that I planted a couple of years ago. They were the equivalent of bushes, I guess, when I bought them. They're supposed to get about 15 feet high. Unbeknownst to me, a couple of weeks ago, I had somebody helping me in the yard. They actually cut them back to the size of bushes because they finally got a growth spurt after 2 years. So I was very happy. You know, the limbs were coming out. It blossomed very nice. And this person cut them back. Are they damaged for life, or will they come back?
Okay, depending upon how far back they cut them. Thank goodness crepe myrtle will, if it's not cut back too low, hopefully with a little time come out of that. What they will do is throw out a lot of new growth from that area where it was cut, and you may have to go in after they bloom. No, not after they bloom, actually before, in the spring when they have come out, and you may need to reduce some of the numbers of new sprouts that come up. It's going to take a little while depending upon how far back they cut. Thank goodness they didn't do it to 2 feet or 3 feet tall, okay?
They actually did. I mean, because when they had a growth spurt, and they only got to I would say about maybe 3.5 to 4 feet, and now they're back down to a small container bush.
Okay, well, we're going to say if they were only 4 feet and they took off a foot of it, we're going to say that as those stems grow, the area that hasn't been cut will still be beautiful. And you will just have to maintain that top part as it grows and reduce some of the extra growth at sometime midsummer, perhaps, okay? I think you'll be all right since they were that small. It isn't something that I want to do, okay, because I love the stems of that. But what you can do is go down to the base and remove all but the best 4 canes and let those mature. And I think you'll be all right, Sharon. But you know, you're not the only one that's ever happened to, okay?
Just keep that person away from
Sorry about that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Have a great
Hope it
weekend.
wasn't your brother.
Take care. Okay, let's see our next caller. Excuse me. Howard is calling from Arlington. Hi, Howard.
Hey, good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
What can we do for you?
Oh, okay, I want to know, when I saw that big plot that you were preparing for next spring with a series of soils, I don't know if I can handle. Yeah, I don't know if I can handle anything of that size because I don't have a balcony or anything. I'm just having a small apartment, so I'm going to have a series of smaller plots. And what kind of soil maybe would you recommend that I put in those, and what kind of plants like to grow for next year?
Okay,
Howard,
Howard,
you might want to turn your TV down a little bit too.
I need to ask you a couple of questions, Howard. You mentioned you're in an apartment. Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah. That's
Now,
small
are we
kitchen.
talking about outdoor gardening, or can you only garden inside?
I think I can only garden inside. I can garden outside, but I'd have to find an open space that just a random open space. That's what I would have to find, and I think that would be rough.
Okay, Howard. Everything that I've talked about today is outside gardening. All of these bulbs have to have a cold spell, okay? And so you can't garden with. The only ones that you can successfully garden with inside are the paper white narcissus, which won't live over out there, okay? So this stuff today is not doable for you. you're going to need to go into the greenhouse and purchase plants that flower from the greenhouse. Now, you can force these bulbs and then bring them into your area and let them bloom, but in order to do that, you've got to be able to keep them outside in some area to let them get the cold weather. The tulips and the daffodils require a minimum of 8 to hopefully 10 weeks of cold in order to bloom well, Howard. So this is not your thing unless you can find a place to just overwinter some of these pots outside.
Well, I think I could find an outside space. I'm gonna have to pay a little money for it, but it's a plot.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
That's up to you, dear. Thank you so much for calling.
Have a great weekend. Okay, well, the hour has flown by, as usual. We have less than a minute. Is there anything you want to
Well, what you need to do really in the bulbs that we showed today, because we showed primarily tulips, and I love to do that because the varmints don't get at them that way, is be sure, because again, the bulb displays are so attractive, and now there's such a variety of them. Go and see what's there. These, for instance, are 2 varieties of grape hyacinths that you may not be familiar with.
Right.
They're great.
Okay, next week, Amy Strunk is going to be with us here on the set, and she's going to talk about some beautiful fall plants and some more decorating ideas.
Yes,
So
she's very excited.
She is. Have a great week. Don't forget to stop by the seminars. Take care.